Hello, I am Liza Holland, and I am a member of the Nonpartisan League of Women Voters of Lexington, and I will be serving as moderator for this forum for candidates for the LFUCG City Council District 4. The League of Women Voters of Lexington is the sponsor today, and the forum, plus all of our other forums, will be available later by going to the League website, which is www.lwvlexington.com, and also available on our YouTube channel. We are very grateful to our candidates today. Ms. Monarrez, Ms. Brenda Monarrez, and Mr. Brack Marquette are joining us for this forum. We are following the League of Women Voters policies and procedures for this forum. In order to give the candidates a fair chance to be heard, we have randomly selected from random.org for the order of opening remarks and questions, and then a second time for closing remarks. The questions have been created by the sponsors and have also been taken by the public. Finally, we give each candidate 60 seconds for closing remarks, and we'll use the second order of draw for those closing comments. At this point, we will begin with opening comments, and the candidates will go in the order of the first drawing, which means we will first hear from Mr. Brack Marquette. 60 seconds.
Thank you very much. My name is Brack Marquette, and I would like to be the next council representative for District 4 in Lexington. I think that this council race is entirely about credibility, about personal integrity, and about actual results. I have a lot of experience in government, in politics, and in bringing diverse groups and opposing people to the table to get good policy and good results in place. My career has been working with all political parties, and I am proud to be that kind of nonpartisan candidate in this race. I hope that we will be able to discuss a lot of important issues. The forums that we have attended have been very helpful in seeing the difference between the two candidates, and I look forward to responding to your questions today. Thank the League for doing this. It is a very valuable service.
Thank you so much. Ms. Monarrez, you have 60 seconds to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Brenda Monarrez, and I'm running for 4th District City Council. I'd like to first thank the League of Women's Voters for the opportunity to be a part of this forum. I have been a proud Lexingtonian for the last 30 years, having come to Lexington to attend UK and graduating with honors with degrees in management and economics. I specifically lived in the 4th District in my home when I purchased it 26 years ago. I believe that this makes me a very unique and one-of-a-kind candidate specifically for the 4th, because I've been very in tune with the issues of the 4th and in Lexington specifically. I've held several roles in leadership and executive positions, most recently owning my own small business, a landscaping and lawn maintenance company, for the last 8 years. I believe one thing that sets me aside from my opponent is the fact that I have gained multiple endorsements from several agencies throughout Lexington.
Thank you so very much. And you'll take this next question first. What do you most want to accomplish should you be elected in the coming 2 years on council?
The one thing that I most want to accomplish is to affect a positive change in decreasing the amount of crime that has been going on across the city. I'm proud to hold the endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police. I know that this is a controversial endorsement at times because people believe that that would be putting the interest of our police officers before the potential interests of the residents, and this could be nothing farther from the truth. I think holding both that endorsement, the ones of corrections and our fire department, means that they believe that I am the candidate that is most willing to listen, and I have a higher degree of an understanding of what the issues are, and that I'm most adept at finding solutions to the problems. I also know that we have to make changes with how we treat domestic violence, and we have to create more opportunities for our youth, since both of those are 30% each in what's contributing to our homicide rates at the moment.
Thank you so much. Mr. Marquette.
Well, what I would like to accomplish is a city council being part of and being a contributor to a city council across all groups and all sectors to get good solutions done. Ms. Monarrez has touted herself as a Democrat to voters, pointing out her role on the Fayette County and the state Democratic Party. I think that's inappropriate in this case. This is a nonpartisan election. You need a council person that's going to work with all parties, and that will be my biggest contribution, to take diverse interest, to take opposing interest, and to build solid coalitions to move things forward across the board, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's policing, whether it is other aspects of public safety. And in terms of budgeting, I have broad experience in terms of handling very large budgets.
That's actually a nice segue into the next question. And Mr. Marquette, you will take this first. An important part of your duty will be helping to pass an appropriate budget. What experience do you have that would qualify you to set a budget for such a large organization?
Thank you for that question. I began my budgeting experience as chairman of a college department, a university department of speech. In my first position, was responsible for hiring and budgeting for that department. From there, I was part of the executive team at the Kentucky Natural Resources Cabinet when I came back home to Kentucky. And that was a huge millions, hundreds of millions of dollar budget for that regulatory and enforcement agency. I've handled foundation budgets of many $1 million, been responsible for their implementation, for proposing budgets. I have been the foundation officer for 3 organizations. It was my responsibility to get nonprofit applications to put together foundation and giving budgets for those corporations so that those agencies locally, statewide could be served.
Ms. Monarrez.
Yes, thanks for the question. I not only have owned a small business, but I was also part of leadership roles. For example, when I worked at Lexmark Corporation as a part of their Latin America service and support team, I had my own budget to run at the time. I also served as director of human resources for Hillemeyer Landscaping, where I was also given a budget to handle over both marketing and human resources, and where I would get input and direction for other departments within that organization as well. I had to be a part of the SBDM board at Dunbar, where we influenced also decision-making over budgets at that school as well. So I'm well versed in what it takes to address budgeting issues.
Wonderful. You will take this next question first. We are obviously in the process of updating our comprehensive plan, but the comprehensive plan that exists right now encourages infill and redevelopment as Lexington's main growth strategy. What specific implementation aspects of the comprehensive plan do you feel are working, and what challenges need to be addressed?
I believe one of the challenges that is very important that needs to be addressed is increasing affordable housing across Lexington. Just this summer, the Herald Leader reported that in some areas of Lexington, rent has increased by as much as 34%. There is a desperate need to increase the number of units that are available. Having more units available for both renting and homeownership opportunities, such as duplexes, fourplexes, and multifamily units, is something that needs to be on the uptick and prioritized. We also need to make sure that any expansion to urban services is something that is well researched and intentional, making those communities walkable, having transportation available if there is affordable housing available in those areas to jobs. All of that needs to be taken into consideration when moving forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marquette.
Well, I am the only candidate in this race that has any experience in terms of economic development, job growth, and all of the aspects that are important to the reason for the comprehensive plan. And the reason for the comprehensive plan is not just about housing. It's about how to position industry, how to position job growth, how to position housing, how to position our workforce, and how to position the access and the use of our land in concert. And concert is the important word here. The comprehensive plan is a compromise of interest, some of them very important and special interests, but it is a compromise that will take careful and diligent work. I have sat before at those kinds of tables, building jobs, helping communities move forward, both at the local, state, and at the multi-state level.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Marquette, you'll take this question first. Some 30 years ago, Lexington had the highest rate of home ownership in the state. Now it stands at the lowest. What public programs and policies and what private initiatives could best protect and foster home ownership, especially among those with modest income?
This has been an issue that I've been talking about since the campaign first began back in the primary. Home ownership, and by the way, 47% of the people in Fayette County are renters. So that's almost half and half divided between homeowners and renters. Some people want to rent, but a lot of folks that are in rental situations cannot move into home ownership, which is a point of economic strength and has been for many, many years. My focus, and I have pledged to many units, many sectors of the community that I have talked to, that this will be a key part of what I have to offer. I've been a neighborhood association president for over 20 years. I know the importance that home ownership has to growth and wealth and family stability. That is a focus that I will not give up on. The comprehensive plan will address that, and I will be a strong advocate for more home ownership in that plan and have told lots of entities that.
Thank you. We have had a flood of questions about affordable housing, and so I'm going to give you one more question as far as this is concerned. Lexington faces challenges across the districts with regard to housing affordability, diversity, and accessibility. What is the city's role in addressing affordable housing? And how would you recommend prioritizing policy change to address these challenges?
Sure. Affordable housing is a very complex issue, not only for Lexington, but for many other cities in this country which have our same demographics and a lot of our same character. It is not just about throwing money at the problem. It is about establishing good policy within this city and its government that will encourage true housing affordability. And there's a big difference between affordable housing and housing affordability. There is a huge sector of our low-income population that cannot possibly afford now what's being built as affordable housing. It is well above, the cost of that housing is well above anything that they can accomplish. We must address that by working with the builder community, by working with banks. I have been a banker, and by encouraging these people to reach out and to work with us in order to create these housing opportunities for the lowest income Lexingtonians.
Ms. Monarrez.
I have been an advocate for housing and affordable housing and increasing home ownership. I had vast experience when working with Kentucky Housing Corporation, and I was tasked with increasing home ownership across the state by a minimum of 10%, specifically with underserved communities and low income population across the state. Here in Lexington, we have partnerships such as with the REACH Corporation, where down payment assistance programs are made available. And we do have our own affordable housing fund, which I believe is not at a level of funding to keep up with what the need is in our city. So it is absolutely important to make sure that we're both creating programs, having funding for those programs, and partnering with nonprofits that help fill in the gaps where the city's not able to do everything on its own.
Thank you. And you will take this next question first. Meaningful public participation is vital to a responsive local government. What are some innovative approaches that you would advocate for to make government processes more accessible, equitable, and transparent?
In my candidacy, I've talked a lot about being the candidate that is open, transparent, and accessible. And I would like to continue with meetings that are currently being held by the incumbent in the 4th district. But I believe that just as we are wanting our public safety officials to come out into the community in order to create trust, I think that it's also necessary to have a council member that comes out into the community that meets people, both whether it's neighborhood associations, homeowner associations, or just listening to one-on-one individuals to hear what their needs are and prioritizing those needs, making the city's website more accessible as well. There are times when you can do a search about issues that are currently being talked about in city council, and it doesn't necessarily come up in a Google search. So making sure that all of that is accessible to the individuals that wish to give public input.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marquette.
This is a key issue for me, and I find it a bit disingenuous, since it was Ms. Monarrez that didn't show up for these same interviews back in the primary. That, I think, is a discouraging signal in terms. I've been a neighborhood association president of 2 different associations for over 20 years. My work there has been one of maximum transparency, maximum openness, and leading those organizations along with the Fayette Neighborhood Council, the Fayette County Neighborhood Council, which my mother-in-law founded, and other groups that have tried to involve local people, neighbors, the unelected, in the process that is being run by the elected officials. So my commitment experience is on both sides, both in terms of being a government leader and being a neighborhood leader and being open, responsible. And I will not be hard to find, and I will show up, and I will instigate many opportunities for those meetings to take place.
I will let you go ahead and go first on this next one, if you would take this first. Public safety is another major issue that we've received a lot of questions about. So I'll start with this one. Over half of the city's budget for the general fund is allocated to public safety, yet those needs are different in each district. How will you address the specific public safety needs of your district while ensuring that those services are responsive to and effective for the community as a whole?
Currently, all of our public safety agencies are severely understaffed, from police, fire, 911 operators, and corrections. Although those agencies service all of Lexington, the fact that they are understaffed affects every single district, including the 4th. So having those positions fully staffed, I think, needs to be a priority to begin with. And then in order for us to affect any sort of change moving forward, having the needs of those agencies, such as tools being updated, equipment being updated is something that is necessary. I don't believe that there are enough firehouses, for example, that are currently servicing the 4th district. Again, I'm proud to be the only candidate that is endorsed by all of our public safety agencies, because I have put forward ideas that are viable solutions and not just general statements moving forward.
Okay, Mr. Marquette.
I'm glad to be able to address this question. In my meetings with the police, I was very specific on my interest in doing things that would help us to retain and thus grow our police staffing numbers, which are very understaffed. One of those specifically is about retention. We train officers in Lexington, but then they get siphoned off by other communities. I have a plan that will allow us to retain officers in greater numbers and to consequently put more officers in our community, all over the community. I am also intrigued that Ms. Monarrez talks about public safety, and yet as established by the Lexington Herald leader in the primary, she has her own issues in terms of interactions with the police and disregard for public safety. And I think voters need to be aware of that and to look very seriously about how much trust that can earn her.
Thank you so much. This will be the last question before moving to closing remarks. Mr. Marquette, you will take this first. Many citizens in the region lack private transportation and must rely on accessible, reliable, safe, and affordable public transportation. What measures do you support to meet the needs of the growing population of Lexington and extending into Fayette County to the adjacent counties who require public transportation for their jobs, medical care, groceries, and other needs?
The transportation dilemma in our community in Central Kentucky is a big one. And I think that we need to start from the beginning in looking at what kind of transportation needs we actually have and what kind of modern, up-to-date transportation solutions we can provide. Running large buses up and down the main corridors is not enough. And our community is laid out in such a way, not on a grid pattern, as in a lot of cities, but it's laid out in such a way that our public transportation is complicated because of that. We have to do a huge amount of work to convince the citizens of Lexington that public transportation is an option for everyone and that everyone must be a player in making that happen, whether it's to their jobs, whether it's to grocery stores. And I'll say this with regard to the comprehensive plan, planning can help transportation infrastructure.
Thank you so much. Ms. Monarrez.
I believe that any solution that we put forward and implement needs to be effective and efficient. And in order for that to be the case, solutions will have to be very specific to Lexington. Lexington isn't a big metropolis like Atlanta or Chicago, where people can fully depend on public transportation to get from one place to another. It isn't efficient at all. If I were to want to get to the other side of town, I would have to switch buses multiple times, and it would take an extreme amount of time to get there. So definitely not effective way, and promoting that currently is not something that is viable moving forward. So just as we need viable solutions that are Lexington specific for affordable housing, it's the same for public transportation, but making communities also walkable and making bike routes more accessible is something that needs to be taken into consideration when building communities.
Thank you so much, and thank you to both candidates for your very informative responses to these questions. We now move to closing remarks, and random.org has determined that Ms. Monarrez will have the first 60 seconds for closing remarks.
First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters once again for the opportunity to talk about these issues and to bring forth information which, of course, sets candidates aside. I personally have remained positive throughout my campaign. A lot of the things that I was accused of, like touting either the way I was registered or not, is just completely false. But I think that voters see through all of that. One thing that I will address is touting the fact that someone is the leader of a neighborhood association and currently has a lawsuit that has been filed against them in September with multiple complaints with regards to that. So being someone that is transparent and trustworthy, I think is just not true. But my endorsements speak for themselves. It's multiple organizations that have talked to me that know that I am in tune with what the issues are in Lexington, that trust that I have viable solutions and that I am adept at putting those solutions forward. I'd like your vote this November 8th. I look forward to serving.
Thank you so much. Mr. Marquette.
I appreciate again that the league has taken another opportunity to invite us to provide comments and answer questions. As I said at the outset, this campaign between Ms. Monarrez and myself is about credibility, about personal integrity, and about getting results. I am disappointed that Ms. Monarrez denies that she sent messages out earlier this month with regard to her Democratic leadership positions, and very specifically, in my opinion, bruising the nonpartisan aspects of this race. With regard to the lawsuit in my neighborhood, that lawsuit is on the board of directors, vice president. So, and lastly, I think it is important for voters to understand that Ms. Monarrez touts herself as a small business leader, and yet her business is dissolved by the Secretary of State. I think I am the leader for our district, without question. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so very much, and thank you again to both candidates for participating today. If you are interested in league membership or would like to see any more of these forums, please do check out our website at lwvlexington.com and make sure now to create a plan to vote. We are lucky here in Kentucky that we do have early voting available to us. That will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday prior to Election Day, November the 8th. That will be at the Lexington Senior Center, 195 Life Lane, from 8:30 to 4:30 each of those days. And of course, actual Election Day of November the 8th is a wonderful opportunity for you to step up and engage in your government. Thank you so very much for joining us.